Right, you'll still get there.
Slow down, you'll still get there. That's tremendous. It's so civilised. It's like the old advertising board. It's just kind of elderly ladies sat around having a cup of tea. Belgian. Well, what do we got? Chocolate. We like chocolate's nice.
Oh,
I suppose it's slightly different. It's slightly different.
It is great chocolate, I must admit that. Great beers, great chocolate.
But I'd like to think that perhaps that could be, if you need a quote for your CD, I'm offering you this now. Gautier, he's slightly different. I think that seems quite sweet. So you're going to play something else for us. And now I should just point out, you have a single called Heart's a Mess.
That's right.
And an album called Like Drawing Blood, which I'm told is out tomorrow.
The single comes out on April 6th, and the album is already out.
The album's already out, but we need the single. Is this the single you're going to play now?
It is, yeah.
Okay,
Once you give me a second, can you sort of,
I'll fill.
Yeah, fill out. That's pretty good. It might even sample a bit of Girl from Ipanema.
Girl from Ipanema. It could have been The Boy from Ipanema. Obviously, often, just to let the listeners know, Sorry,
that was my boy.
I was explaining. Often, when a woman sings "Girl from Ipanema," she'll change the words to "Boy from Ipanema."
Really?
Yeah, so often if you'll see a woman in a bar singing it, then she'll change the words. But don't be confused; it's the same song. They've just changed the genders. I believe it's allowed by the songwriters. I believe they've given permission. I don't think they're breaking any copyright or PRS rules. So I don't know. How you doing? Are you ready?
Right on.
Okay, great. So useful stuff. And this is the single "Heart's a Mess."
It is. This is a sort of a special arrangement for you guys. This is sort of my live arrangement, sort of the record arrangement.
Thank you very much. Great. In the morning from the Coral on the Steve Show, 6 Music with me, Steve Merchant, and thanks again to Gautier. Round of applause. Lovely man, tremendous sound. And yes, that was really, really good. Thank you to him for coming in. We were talking before we spoke to him about you guys out there laying claim to being at the beginning, to be the first to appreciate XYZ, and we'll just finish wrapping that up. There's been a few there, huh?
Yeah, Will in Bournemouth, New York, Christmas '98. I think he wins Kings of Leon at the Blues Bar. They only really played covers. They
really?
were so raw.
Wow, that is raw.
That is good.
Calvin's little sister was one of the first 2 children to be bitten by emu in 1974 at a village fete.
Where was it? At a fete?
At a village fete in 1974.
That's brilliant. That beats The Cure in my book. That is absolutely dynamite. Bitten by emu. Did emu bite? I suppose he did. I mean, he tended to grab. That's mean. And how old were the kids? 4?
It doesn't actually say. It just says one of the first 2 children.
I wish I could get more information. Please send more information on that. That sounds like a heck of a story.
Worst night out ever. Hayley in Bridgend saw Mew Skunk Anansie, Newport Leisure Centre in October '99.
Ooh, she's trying to.
She's claiming Muse, but she's having to admit to Skunk Anansie.
Skunk Anansie, yeah. I'm going to put her in both the Skunk Anansie section and the Muse subdivision. Good. Thank you very much, guys, for getting in touch with those. We appreciate it, and I'm sure this will run.
There have been hundreds, literally hundreds. We could start a huge fight in the car park about the Manic Street Preachers.
Sure.
Well,
yeah.
I'd like to start a fight with Kate, who would like to claim Gomez. So, if you're up for it, Kate, I will beat you.
Great. We have got quite a thin show next week, so that will be great. We'll do that around 4:30. Come down if you can. We'll do it on the webcam. We'll film it. We'll put it on the website. We get. You can bring that little paddling pool in from next door, huh?
Yeah.
I'll get some mud. And that is going to be tremendous. Mud Wrestling on next week's Steve Show. We're all looking forward to that. But prior to that, Harry, you've got a second musical choice this week, which is both arrogant but also exciting.
Well, we're thin on the ground this week. There's no roof, there's no little tiny Dan. And my first choice, let's be fair, was 1 minute and 19 seconds long, which isn't much in the great scheme of things. That song by The Replacements was all about getting a job. This track by Quasi is similarly short, about 1 minute 40, but it's all about, you don't want a job, the man, he's just going to rip you off. Why don't we hear it?
Second musical choice from Harry on this week's Steve Show. Harry?
That was The Happy Prole by Quasi from their album featuring Birds.
You mentioned, obviously, that both Rufus and Tiny Dan are not here. Rufus, I suspect, is having a servant flogged. But Tiny Dan is not here because his lovely girlfriend Marilyn was in a nasty accident. A nasty bike accident. So we send her our best wishes and much love to her. Popped into Sirius today in hospital, and it's been a nasty affair. And they've been applying leeches.
No.
Really?
Now, I didn't realise they still use leeches. they still use leeches in hospital. And they pop the old leeches on, and apparently it helps with the blood circulation. And then when the leech is sufficiently gorged on blood, then it sort of wanders off. And, yeah, they've been using the old leeches. And apparently, Dan was telling us that, there was someone sat in the bed opposite, and they were sort of bleary-eyed, you know, probably high on morphine or whatever. And, when the leeches are kind of done sucking on the blood, they'll sometimes just go for a wander. You know, they very much, they live by their own rules, you know, they're like gypsies, they don't obey the man's regulations. And, yeah, so you imagine that, you're recovering from whatever terrible things happened to you because you're in the emergency ward, and you're sort of bleary-eyed, and you look down, and apparently there was a leech that had just got free and was just crawling across the hospital floor, a little trail of blood, of Merlin's blood behind it.
Leeches?
I still use leeches. Apparently they've clearly not found anything else that does the job as well. And these...
That's the last thing you need after a horrific accident. Oh, we're just going to cover you in insect. Brilliant.
I know. And, is it an insect? Ooh.
We're going to cover you in something slimy and disgusting. I think it's probably worse
Probably
than
not
an
an insect, it's probably
not,
some
no,
kind of
is it?
omnivore. I don't know what that means.
Not an omnivore.
It's not an omnivore, I don't know what that is. I'll tell you what, they also use maggots. They still use maggots, pop them in the wound, eats all sorts out.
Do they drown witches as well?
Yeah, no, apparently well, it's the NHS, so they got, and apparently as well, they, will cut off the heads of troublemakers and stick it on a spike as a warning to others.
Excellent.
So, be warned down there. There's lots of great medieval stuff that they should be bringing back, which we'd love to see back, you know, I don't know, the plague, for instance. Always give you something to think about, something to write about, you know. I bet you get a lot of good, you know, I'll tell you what the Black Plague would do, it would take your mind off the credit crunch.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, an awful disease like that is bound to create good art. There'll be a lot of good
exactly.
music,
a lot of great music and art if
plague.
they bring back the plague. Let's start that petition. Now then, we're about to delve into the first of which is Conor Oberst, otherwise known as Bright Eyes. But prior to that, just wanted to squeeze in a tune from Maria Taylor, who was for some time the paramour of Conor Oberst. I don't know if they're still going out, but they were for a while. This is from her new album. It's called Cartoons and Forever Plans, and you'll notice doing backing vocals Michael Stipe. So as I said just before we played Maria Taylor, she used to go out with Conor Oberst, and she may indeed still be going out with him. My apologies if they've recently broken up and she's listening to the show, and that's just brought back all the heartache. But equally, if they're still together, then many happy congratulations for a successful romantic and sexual relationship. Anyway, each week we like to delve into the pigeonhole, dig out 3 tracks from 3 big name artists and give you our unnecessary and unsolicited verdict. And Conor Oberst's new tune Slowly, Oh So Slowly is not out until the 27th of April, but here it is for your verdict. Conor Oberst and the tune Slowly, Oh So Slowly, released on the 27th of April, and taking from his forthcoming album Outer South, which features him playing with his real name and with the Mystic Valley Band, and the new album released in May. But there you are, this is the forthcoming single. Harry, your opinion? I'm a massive Conor fan. Where do you stand?
Yeah, well, of course I was there at the start, Steve.
Really?
Like you. Well, I bought Fevers and Mirrors in 2000, I think, when he was a lot more abrasive. He used to do a lot of kind of screaming on those records, with some prettiness in between. And I kind of like what he's doing now, but it's generic kind of US rock, fairly enjoyable. The Milwaukee Express says that his new album Outer South is just a collection of songs and not a particularly good one.
Woo!
Bit harsh. I quite enjoyed that. Nothing special though.
Yeah, I wanted to like it and didn't, and that made me sad, especially because, I've never been a huge Conor Oberst fan, but I am a huge fan of Bright Eyes. And I really want him to do something good, and that wasn't it.
Oh, poor Sammy, she's not feeling very well, and she wanted Conor to do something really good, but she wasn't really happy. Well, neither did the Milwaukee Chronicle, didn't like it either.
My feet are still fat, Steve, they're still fat.
Your feet are fat?
From the plane.
I don't know what you mean. I'll tell you what'll cheer you up, the new tune from Jack Peñate. You remember how Jack was quite the heartthrob, or at least he was predicted to be a couple of years back, and never quite happened for him. He's having a second chance this time, and this tune is released tomorrow, and it's called Tonight's Today. Released tomorrow, that's Jack Peñate and the new tune Tonight's Today. Steve Show 6 Music, we're just delving into the pigeonhole, and a verdict pleads from you, Sammy. It's the kind of tune which is supposed to appeal to a young tyke such as yourself whilst perhaps grooving in a club.
One word: overplay. I enjoyed it the first few times I heard it, but radio want to go mental for that song, and that's the only station I can fully tune into in my car, and I'm bored of it. Which is sad, because I thought I might learn to love it and listen to it over summer and it would be a nice carnival song, but no, it's not. I'm sick of it.
How are the fat feet?
They're still fat.
talking of music and things, what's your take?
It's not like his other stuff, is it? He was more kind of skiffily guitar-led before. I think he's very much a Daniel Bedingfield for our times.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing. I think he's doomed to averageness, and oh, bless him. I think this might be the end of him.
Good-looking lad, though.
Oh, yeah.
Been hammered on Radio 1. Do you want to say now you were there at the beginning?
I think I've still got a promo that I picked up 2 years ago for Torn on the Platform, so I can still claim it even if I don't like him.
Good work. We don't play enough PJ Harvey on this show, do we?
No.
She has a new album out, A Woman, A Man Walked By, which is released tomorrow, we think. This is a single that will be released 6th of April from it. It's called Black Hearted Love. PJ Harvey. PJ Harvey, Black Hearted Love, Steve Show, and so your vinyl verdicts there before we say goodbye. Harvey, is she a woman now who's reached a point where she's beyond criticism? It's just like everything she does is classy.
Yeah, it's just good, isn't it? I mean, if you think that she's a big, scary, snake-haired gloom lady, you're not going to change your mind. But if you love her and you think she's great like I do, then you'll like that a lot.
Do you share that opinion, young Samuel?
I think she's a gloom lady, but she is a good gloom lady, and I want that in the soundtrack of my life.
Really? During happy times or sad?
During just photo editing on the computer, just some of the everyday times.
I understand. Perhaps as you were just soaking your bulbous feet a bit later. I didn't think I was going to say bulbous feet today, people, and I did. I don't know if Stuart McConey will be saying similarly fun words and phrases coming next, but I'm sure he will after the news. Bye.
On digital, online.
Janie Jones from The Clash, of course, kick-starting another edition of the Steve Show. Let's have a little round of applause in a Steve Wright style as we welcome listeners to the programme. Basically, if you've not heard the show before, a very simple concept. My good self, Steve Merchant, very much the helmsman of the programme, the front man, if you will, the presenter, is a phrase we often use in the business. And I have with me some sidekicks, some cohorts, some partners in crime, people who contribute to the show through the voice of talking and the words of song. And they are Harry, who used to work in a bank, but has recently been made redundant.
Absolutely. Yeah. Of course, the sidekick's not so fashionable these days.
It's not. It's very unfashionable.
But we're obviously very grateful that you've carried it along for the last couple of years.
It's keeping your head above water in these difficult
Absolutely,
times.
putting food on the table.
A woman who is no stranger to credit crunch. She lives in the north, and so I imagine very little difference up there at the moment. Is Sammy?
It's like a nuclear wasteland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like North Korea. It's like South Korea will be in a week's time. Ooh. Who says that Steve cannot react to the news he heard on the way in on a rival radio station?
My parents went to a car boot sale, and my dad said you wouldn't have batted an eyelid if they were turning up on donkeys.
Really?
It was that bad.
It's that grim out there. Wow. And a man who has no idea that a credit crunch is going on. He can see the peasants grouping together at the very edge of his manor, but they won't get beyond the fortified fences and the trenches.
They won't. They'll leave the wood they've gathered for me outside the front gate by the drawbridge.
Yeah.
I shall lower it at 9 a.m. every morning with the firing of a cannon and collect their stuff.
It's Lord Rufus, and he joins us once again. You've been absent for a few weeks. It's nice once again for you to join us and elevate the programme.
Thank you, Steve. I'm also here, as you know, to keep an eye on grammar.
Yes.
And so on. I'm going to kick straight off. Cohort is an unsound noun, can't be a plural. So we are a cohort, we're not cohorts.
Really? I cannot
as
have
that.
cohorts.
You can't have cohorts. A cohort is a large number of people. So if you had cohorts, you'd have to literally have filled this particular studio, the building itself, with people to titter and laugh at your jokes. I mean, thousands of men and women.
And now, so when I say a cohort, it's not a hort,
No.
and then we are cohorts.
No, I should have
As
maybe
in
looked up-
co-collaborators or co-producers, co-writers.
No.
Cohortium.
Yeah.
No, as far as I know, a cohort was a Roman expression. I've got this from Asterix. I get most of my classical knowledge comes from
Sure, I know exactly what
good
you
knowledge
mean.
of Asterix.
Yeah.
But a cohort was a group of Roman soldiers. If anybody knows where the word comes from, and